No one believed the girl in the wheelchair should enter the K-9 wing. The red door carried a warning, and behind it waited the dog everyone feared. A K-9 once praised, now locked away like a mistake no one wanted to face. But the girl didn't see danger. She saw something forgotten. When her wheels touched the concrete, a growl filled the hall, and every breath stopped. No one realized that, in that moment, it wasn't just a dog being tested, but whether broken souls still deserved a second chance. The K-9 Center on the edge of Aurora, Colorado looked ordinary from the parking lot. Tan brick, steel doors, flags snapping in a cold wind. Hannah Carter studied it through the window as her mom, Lisa, shut off the engine. Ordinary buildings could still hold the kind of moments that split your life in two. Lisa unfolded the wheelchair with the careful speed of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. The hinges squeaked. Hannah hated that sound. It made her feel like her body announced itself before she ever spoke. "You sure you want to do this?" Lisa asked. Hannah nodded. She was 12 and small for her age now, and she'd learned to hide fear. Inside, the lobby smelled like disinfectant and coffee. A bulletin board displayed photos of proud handlers with their dogs, certificates, and clippings. Families clustered near a glass wall where a calm shepherd healed on command. People smiled, someone clapped. Hannah didn't. Her eyes slid past the friendly setup to the far end of the hall. A plain red door sat there like a warning. A bolted sign read, "Authorized personnel only." Under it, "Do not enter." "Mom," she said, "what's behind that door?" Lisa followed her gaze and went still. "It's not for us," she said too quickly. A woman in a navy polo stepped from behind the desk. Her name tag read, Marlene. "Welcome," she said. "You must be Hannah." Hannah blinked. "How do you know my name?" Lisa's cheeks colored. "I called yesterday. Accessibility." "We're happy you're here," Marlene said. Then she noticed Hannah's stare on the red door, and her smile thinned. "That area isn't part of the open house." "What area is it?" Hannah asked. Marlene lowered her voice. "Kennels, working dogs. Not all of them are social." Hannah's fingers curled in her lap. Beneath the blanket covering her legs, a small metal tag rested against her palm, worn smooth from being held. Her dad's old K-9 tag. She hadn't taken it off since the accident. "What about the one everyone's scared of?" Hannah asked. Marlene's eyes sharpened. "Who told you that?" "No one," Hannah said. "But you didn't say I'm wrong." A handler walked through the lobby with a dog that moved like it trusted the world. The dog's nails clicked in steady rhythm. A little boy reached out, and the dog allowed it. Cameras rose. People laughed. Hannah watched, and the hollow feeling returned. That dog had a job. Hannah had ramps and appointments and strangers speaking to her mother instead of her. Marlene hesitated. "His name is Rex," she said at last, like the word carried teeth. Lisa's hand landed on Hannah's shoulder. "Sweetheart, no," she whispered. "We came to look." "I'm not asking to pet him," Hannah said. "I want to talk." "He doesn't like strangers," Marlene warned, "and he really doesn't like wheels." The word hit Hannah harder than it should have. Wheels, as if the chair was the loudest thing about her. "I can be quiet," Hannah said. "I can be slow." Lisa shook her head, but her voice broke. "Hannah." Hannah took a breath. "People keep telling me to stay away from things that might hurt," she said. "But I'm already hurt. I don't want to be afraid of everything forever." The lobby quieted, as if even the building was listening. A man stepped in from the hall, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a worn uniform jacket. His eyes went straight to the red door, then to Hannah. Marlene's voice changed. "Officer Grant." Grant's jaw tightened. "What's going on?" Hannah pointed. "I want to go back there." "No," Grant said immediately. Hannah held his gaze. "Why?" Grant's voice dropped. "Because the dog in that kennel isn't a lesson," he said. "He's not a story. He's dangerous." Hannah's fingers closed around the tag under her blanket, grounding herself in cold metal. "Then don't let me feel good," she said. "Let me meet him." For a beat, Grant looked like he didn't know what to do with a kid who wouldn't bargain. His eyes flicked to Lisa, then back to Hannah. 30 seconds, Hannah said. "That's all." Lisa squeezed her hand, terrified, but she didn't pull her away. Grant exhaled, like he was choosing the lesser of two disasters. 30 seconds, he repeated, voice rough, "and you do exactly what I say." Hannah's wheels turned once, then again, rolling toward the red door. The sign didn't change. But something in the air did, like the whole place had been holding its breath, waiting to see if she'd really cross that line. She did anyway. The hallway beyond the red door felt colder, narrower, as if the building itself had changed its mind about welcoming people. The cheerful sounds from the lobby fell away, replaced by the low hum of fluorescent lights and the faint echo of barking from somewhere deep inside. Hannah felt it through the wheels first. The floor wasn't smooth here. Every seam and crack traveled straight up her arms. Officer Grant walked ahead, keys clipped to his belt, his shoulders stiff. He didn't look back. Marlene followed a few steps behind, wringing her hands. Lisa stayed close to Hannah, one palm resting lightly on the back of the chair, ready to pull her away if things went wrong. 30 seconds, Grant said again, without turning around. "You stay in the yellow line. You don't reach for anything, and if I say stop, you stop." Hannah nodded. She'd learned how to listen to rules after the accident. Rules were easier than hope. They passed a row of kennels marked with neat white labels, names, dates, handler assignments. Some dogs barked when they saw people, others wagged, tails thudding against metal. A few just watched, eyes alert, bodies coiled with purpose. Then the labels stopped. At the end of the corridor, one kennel sat apart from the rest. The lighting was dimmer there, almost deliberate. A red strip of tape crossed the floor in front of it, brighter than the door they'd passed through. Grant slowed. His hand went to the gate latch but didn't touch it. "That's Rex," he said. Hannah leaned forward slightly. She couldn't see much at first, just shadow and a shape pressed back against the concrete wall. Then two eyes opened, amber, sharp, catching the light like embers stirred awake. The sound came next. Low, deep, not loud, but steady. A warning that didn't need to shout. Lisa sucked in a breath. "Oh my God!" Rex rose to his feet in one smooth motion. He was bigger than Hannah expected, thick through the chest, scars threading his neck and shoulders like old maps. His muscles bunched as he paced the length of the kennel, nails scraping, eyes never leaving the wheels. "He hates that sound," Marlene whispered. "The chair." Rex lunged once toward the gate, stopping just short, teeth flashing. The metal rattled. Somewhere down the hall, a dog started barking in response. Grant lifted a hand. "Rex," he said sharply. "Down!" The dog didn't listen. Hannah's heart hammered, but she forced herself to stay still. She'd been stared at like that before. After the accident, by kids at school, by adults who didn't know where to look. This wasn't so different. It was fear, pointed outward. "Why is he back here?" she asked, her voice small but steady. Grant's jaw tightened. "Because he doesn't belong out front anymore." "He used to," Marlene said softly. "Best tracking dog we had." Grant shot her a look, but she kept going. 3 years ago, Rex could follow a scent through snow, water, traffic. Didn't matter. He never quit. Hannah watched Rex pace, his body taut like a pulled wire. "What happened?" Grant didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on the dog. "A call went bad," he said finally. Night operation. Woods outside town. A missing person. Rex slammed his shoulder into the gate, once, hard. The sound cracked down the hallway like a gunshot. Lisa stepped back. "This is a mistake." "No," Hannah said quietly. "He's trying to tell us something." Grant let out a short, humorless laugh. "He's telling us to leave." Hannah shook her head. "He's mad." "He's dangerous," Grant corrected. "People said that about me," Hannah said, before she could stop herself. The words hung there. Grant turned, really looked at her for the first time. The chair, the thin legs under the blanket, the way her hands clenched in her lap. "What do you mean?" he asked. "After my accident," Hannah said, her voice tightening, "everyone whispered about how hard things would be, about what I couldn't do anymore. They stopped asking me to try." Rex growled again, louder now, the sound vibrating through the metal. "They said it was kinder," Hannah went on, "but it felt like being erased." Grant swallowed. "Rex wasn't erased," he said. "He was benched?" "What does that mean?" Hannah asked. Marlene answered. "It means his handler was reassigned. His file was flagged. No field work, no visitors, no contact unless necessary." Hannah's eyes flicked to the blank space above the kennel. "There's no name." Grant followed her gaze. Where every other kennel had a laminated card, Rex's was bare. Just metal. "We took it down," Grant said. "Didn't seem right to leave it up." "Why?" Hannah asked. Grant's voice dropped. "Because next week there's a review. And sometimes," he said slowly, "dogs don't pass." The word landed like a weight. Rex's pacing slowed, just for a second, as if he'd heard something familiar. His eyes locked onto Hannah again. The growl softened, not gone, but different, tired. Hannah felt a tightness in her chest she didn't have a name for. "He knows," she said. "No," Grant said. "He's a dog." Hannah didn't argue. She just lowered her hand from her lap and placed it flat against the floor, well behind the yellow line. "I'm not here to take anything from you," she said softly, not sure if she was talking to Rex or to Grant. "I just wanted to see you." Rex stopped pacing. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise had been. Grant stared, something uneasy stirring behind his eyes. "Time," he said hoarsely. "We're done here." But Hannah didn't move yet. She held her hand on the cold concrete, steady, and for the first time since he'd stood up, Rex didn't advance. He watched her, and somewhere between them, something shifted. Grant's hand hovered near the radio at his shoulder, not touching it, like he didn't trust himself to make the call. The hallway seemed to shrink around them. Even the lights buzzed softer, as if the place had learned when to stay quiet. "Time's up," he said again, but without the edge it had a moment earlier. Hannah kept her palm on the floor. The concrete was cold, rougher than she expected. It grounded her. Rex stood still now, head low, eyes fixed on her hand. His chest rose and fell in a slower rhythm. Not calm, but listening. Lisa leaned down, her mouth close to Hannah's ear. "Sweetheart, please," she whispered. "You did what you came to do." Hannah didn't answer. She reached beneath the blanket and brought out the metal tag. It caught the light as she turned it between her fingers, old, scratched. A K9 unit number worn thin by years of touch. Grant noticed. His eyes narrowed. "Where did you get that?" "It was my dad's," Hannah said. "He kept it on his nightstand, even after he stopped working." "What unit?" Grant asked. "Search and rescue," Hannah said. "He said dogs always found what people missed." Rex's ears twitched at the sound of the tag. A faint jingle. His head lifted an inch. Grant swallowed. "That sound," he murmured. "That's a working sound." Hannah nodded. "He used to let me hold it when I couldn't sleep. After the accident, it was the only thing that didn't change." The words cracked something open in Grant's face. He looked away, staring down the long line of kennels, past the dogs who still had jobs, names, futures. 30 seconds, Hannah said quietly. That's all I asked for. I think I still have some left. Grant hesitated. Marlene glanced between them, torn. 30, Grant said at last, and that's it. Hannah rolled forward a few inches, careful not to cross the yellow line. The wheels whispered instead of clattered. Rex stiffened, then held. She stopped. I won't come closer, she said. I just want to talk. Rex's tail flicked once against the wall. Not a wag. More like a reflex he hadn't used in a while. I know what it's like when everyone decides who you are, Hannah said. Her voice was steady now, as if the fear had burned off and left something clearer behind. They look at a chart or a chair or a report, and they stop seeing the rest. Rex shifted his weight. The growl didn't return. They tell you it's for your own good, she went on. They say it's safer if you don't try. Grant's jaw tightened. His mind pulled him back to a night thick with pine and fog, to a radio crackling with half-heard commands, to Rex straining at the leash, wanting to go left when Grant had ordered right, to the sound they'd never found. Hannah glanced at Grant without turning her head. Was it dark? She asked. He stiffened. What? The night it went wrong, she said. Was it dark and loud and confusing? Grant's breath caught. Yes? Rex let out a low sound then, not a growl, a whine, thin and aching, like it had been buried deep and just now found a way out. Lisa pressed a hand to her mouth. I didn't want to be here either, Hannah said, the words slow, deliberate. After my accident, I wanted to disappear. I wanted to stop being the problem everyone had to work around. Rex took a step forward, then another, stopping inches from the gate. His nose flared, scenting the air, the metal, the faint trace of the tag. I'm still here, Hannah said, even when it hurts. Rex lowered his head. The movement was subtle, easy to miss if you weren't watching for it. Grant saw it anyway, and his chest tightened painfully. No, he whispered, more to himself than to the dog. Don't. Rex bent his front legs, slowly, cautiously, like an old habit remembered. He didn't lie down. He settled, head dropping until his chin brushed the concrete. The hallway seemed to exhale. Marlene's hand flew to her mouth. He's never... Grant lifted a finger, silent. Hannah didn't smile. She didn't move. She just breathed. I'm not here to fix you, she said softly. I just didn't want you to think you were alone. Rex closed his eyes for a heartbeat. When he opened them again, the fire in them had dimmed, replaced by something tired, searching. Grant felt a familiar sting behind his eyes and hated it. He stepped closer without meaning to, his boots scuffing the floor. Rex's ears flicked. His eyes snapped open. The growl threatened, a shadow rising. Hannah noticed immediately. She lifted the tag slightly, letting it jingle once. Just once. Rex froze. Grant stopped breathing. That's his sound, Grant said hoarsely. That's what we used before a track. Hannah nodded. Then he remembers. Rex's gaze softened. He shifted, paws scraping the floor. Something metallic glinted in the far corner of the kennel, half hidden beneath a torn blanket. Grant frowned, squinting. What is that? Rex nudged it with his nose, hesitant, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to show it. The object slid forward an inch. Grant's stomach dropped. He knew that frayed edge. He knew that buckle. No, he whispered. You kept it? Hannah watched Rex, then Grant, understanding only that whatever lay there mattered more than anything else in the room. The 30 seconds were long gone, and none of them were ready for what Rex was about to give back. The moment stretched too thin, like a wire pulled past what it could hold. Rex's nose hovered over the frayed object in the corner of the kennel, his breath fogging the metal floor. The low whine returned, threading through the silence, and with it came the scrape of his claws. He shifted his weight, muscles tightening again, uncertainty flooding back into his frame. Grant took an instinctive step forward. "Rex," he said, his voice firm but shaking beneath the surface. "Easy?" The word hit the air wrong. Rex's head snapped up, his eyes locked onto Grant, and the calm cracked. A deep, thunderous growl rolled out of his chest, louder than before, filling the hallway and bouncing off concrete and steel. The sound wasn't anger alone. It was panic, the kind that remembered being pulled, restrained, overruled. Marlene yelped and stumbled backward. Somewhere behind them, a door slammed open. "Grant!" a voice shouted. "What the hell is going on back there?" Two officers rushed into the corridor, hands already moving toward their belts. One reached for the emergency control panel mounted on the wall, the one used when a K9 lost control. Lisa froze, her fingers digging into the handles of Hannah's chair. "We're leaving," she said, voice breaking. "Hannah, now!" Rex lunged. The gate rattled violently as his body slammed into it. Once, twice. His teeth flashed white. Spit flew from his lips as the growl turned into something sharper, more desperate. The sound ripped through Hannah's chest like a siren. "Hannah!" Lisa cried. For a split second, fear flooded her. Real fear. The kind that erased everything else. The hallway, the rules, the yellow line. Then she saw Rex's eyes. They weren't wild. They were locked, fixed, trapped. "Wait," Hannah said, louder than she meant to. "Please, just wait." Grant threw an arm out, blocking the other officers. "Nobody touch anything," he snapped. "Not yet." "You're out of your mind," one of them hissed. "That dog's about to breach." Rex hit the gate again, harder. The metal screamed. The torn blanket in the corner slid farther out, and with it, the object beneath. The buckle clinked against concrete, a sharp, familiar sound. The noise cut through Rex like a blade. He froze mid-lunge. His chest heaved. The growl faltered, breaking into uneven breaths. His eyes flicked to the fallen strap, then back to Grant, then to Hannah. Hannah didn't think. She acted. She lifted the metal tag in her hand and let it drop against the floor. The sound was small, barely more than a whisper of metal on concrete. But Rex heard it. His ears snapped forward. His body stilled, every muscle trembling as if fighting itself. The growl died in his throat, replaced by a harsh exhale. Grant's heart pounded so loudly he thought everyone could hear it. "That's enough," Lisa said, tears streaming now. "This is over." "No," Hannah said. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "He's trying to remember." Rex backed away from the gate, one slow step at a time. The movement was stiff, reluctant, like walking against a current. His eyes never left Hannah's hand. "I know that sound," Hannah said, though she had no way of knowing why. "It means something good is supposed to happen next." Rex lowered his head, shaking. His shoulders rose and fell with each breath. Then, with visible effort, he turned away from the gate and nudged the strap again, pushing it farther into the light. Grant's stomach twisted. He knew that strap, knew the feel of it in his hands, the weight, the trust tied into every inch of worn fabric. "That was mine," he said, his voice barely audible. "From the night everything went wrong." The officers exchanged uneasy looks. "You never reported it missing," one said. Grant didn't answer. He couldn't. His eyes were on Rex, on the way the dog hovered over the strap like it was the last solid thing left in a world that had tipped sideways. Rex looked back at Grant, and for the first time since the incident, his gaze didn't accuse. It asked. The hallway was silent, except for Rex's breathing. Hannah's heart hammered, but she forced herself to stay still. She understood now why Grant had been afraid, why everyone was. This wasn't just a dangerous dog. This was a living memory that hadn't been allowed to finish its sentence. "I'm not going to touch him," Hannah said quietly. "I just want him to know he's not being taken away again." Rex took a hesitant step forward, then stopped. His claws scraped the floor, unsure. The emergency panel light blinked once, waiting. Grant lifted his hand slowly and pressed it flat against his chest, the old signal he used to calm Rex during early training. He hadn't dared try it in years. "Stay," he whispered. Rex didn't obey, but he didn't lunge either. He stood there, trembling, caught between what he'd been taught and what he'd learned the hard way. Hannah watched him, understanding that this was the most dangerous moment of all. Not the lunging, not the growling. This choice. And whatever Rex decided next would change everything. The silence stretched, heavy and dangerous, like the moment before a storm decides where to land. Rex stood rigid in the center of the kennel, head lowered, eyes darting between Grant, Hannah, and the strap on the floor. His breathing was loud now, uneven, each breath sounding like it had to fight its way out. Grant kept his hand pressed to his chest. He didn't dare move it. He knew this edge. He had lived on it once, years ago, when Rex was still his partner and not a problem locked behind steel. "Hannah," Lisa whispered, barely able to form the words. "Please, we can't do this." Hannah heard her mother, but she didn't turn. If she looked away now, she was afraid she'd lose the fragile thread holding everything together. Her eyes stayed on Rex, not his teeth, not the scars. His eyes. "They keep thinking you're going to hurt someone," Hannah said softly. Her voice carried down the hall, steady despite the way her hands shook. "They think that's all you are now." Rex's ears twitched. "But I can see it," she continued. "You're not trying to get out. You're trying to make it stop." Grant's throat tightened. The words hit too close, too accurate. "I know what it's like," Hannah said. "When people only see the moment everything went wrong." Rex shifted his weight. His nails scraped once against the floor, then stilled. "They don't see the nights after," Hannah went on. "The ones where you keep replaying it, wondering what you should have done different, wondering why you're still here." A low sound escaped Rex's chest. Not a growl, not a whine, something rawer. His head dipped lower, almost touching the concrete. Grant closed his eyes. That night came back without asking. The fog, the radio cutting in and out, Rex pulling hard, certain, and Grant overriding him because command said otherwise. The silence afterward, the sound that never came. "I didn't want to be here anymore either," Hannah said. Her voice cracked then just a little. "After my accident, everyone kept telling me how brave I was, but I didn't feel brave. I felt stuck, like my life stopped and everyone else's kept moving." Rex's shoulders began to tremble. Hannah swallowed and kept going. "I thought maybe if I stayed very quiet, no one would notice how broken I was." Grant opened his eyes. Tears blurred his vision, and he didn't bother hiding them. "But being quiet didn't fix anything," Hannah said. "It just made me lonelier." Rex lowered himself another inch. His chest touched the floor, then his chin followed, resting there like it was too heavy to hold up anymore. Marlene gasped softly. Grant's knees threatened to give out. He had never seen Rex like this. Not even as a pup. This wasn't obedience. This was surrender. "You're not a bad dog," Hannah said, the words gentle but firm. "You're just carrying something you were never meant to carry alone." Rex let out a long, shuddering breath. The tension in his frame melted, piece by piece, like ice cracking on a lake. His eyes closed for a second, then opened again, glassy and tired. The officers at the end of the hall stood frozen, unsure of what they were witnessing. "That's it," Grant whispered, more to himself than anyone else. That's what he needed? Hannah slid her hand forward an inch, still behind the yellow line. I'm not here to take your job, she said quietly. I just wanted you to know you don't have to fight right now. Rex's nose twitched. He shifted, then slowly reached out with one paw and touched the strap. He hooked it with his claws and dragged it closer to the gate, the metal buckle scraping loudly against the floor. The sound echoed through the hallway. Grant flinched, but Rex didn't react this time. He pushed the strap farther forward until it lay just inches from the bars. No, Grant breathed. You don't have to. Rex looked up at him, not accusing, not afraid, waiting. Grant's chest caved in. He took a step closer to the kennel before he realized what he was doing. I should have listened, he said hoarsely. I should have trusted you. Rex's tail thumped once against the floor. Slow, careful. Hannah watched the exchange, her heart pounding. She didn't fully understand the history between them, but she understood the feeling. The need for someone to admit they'd made a mistake. You can't change that night, Hannah said gently, but you can finish it. Grant nodded, tears slipping freely now. I'm sorry, boy, he whispered. Rex pushed the strap again, this time harder, until it hit the gate and fell through the narrow gap at the bottom, landing in the hallway with a dull thud. The sound broke something open in the room. Grant dropped to one knee without thinking. His hand hovered inches from the strap, trembling. You kept it? He said. All this time. Rex didn't move. He just watched, breathing slow and deep, like he was finally waiting for the right thing to happen. Hannah leaned back slightly, exhaustion washing over her. She hadn't fixed anything. She knew that. But she'd said the words that needed saying. And somehow, Rex had been waiting years to hear them. The emergency panel light stopped blinking. No one reached for it. Not anymore. The strap lay on the floor between them like a confession no one had been ready to hear. Grant stayed on one knee, staring at it, his hand hovering just above the worn fabric. The buckle was scratched, the edges frayed where a strong jaw had once gripped too hard. He recognized every mark. He had made some of them himself. I thought it was gone, he said quietly. I looked for it everywhere. Rex didn't move. He remained where he was, body low, eyes steady, as if standing back was the only way to make sure the truth stayed in the open. Grant picked up the strap at last. It felt heavier than it should have, not from the material, but from what it carried. The hallway seemed to lean in as he turned it over in his hands. That night, Grant said, his voice rough, we were tracking a kid, 10 years old, autism, bolted from his house into the woods. Hannah listened without interrupting. Her fingers rested in her lap, still curled around her father's tag. It was chaos, Grant went on. Radios overlapping, command breathing down my neck. Rex caught a scent fast, too fast for them. They told me to pull him back, said the terrain wasn't safe. Rex's ears flicked. I overruled him, Grant said. First time I ever did that. He swallowed hard. When I finally let him go again, the trail was cold. The words sat heavy in the air. They found the boy at dawn, Marlene said softly from behind them. Too late. Grant nodded once. After that, Rex changed. Every time I clipped a leash, he fought it. Not because he wanted to run, because he didn't want to stop again. Rex let out a quiet breath as if the memory had been pressing on his lungs all along. They said he was unstable, Grant continued. Said I'd lost objectivity. So they reassigned me. Took his name off the board. Locked him back here. Grant's grip tightened around the strap. I dropped this when they pulled me away. Didn't even notice. Hannah looked at Rex, her chest aching. "He kept it," she said. "Like proof." Grant nodded. "Like a promise he didn't get to finish." The officers who'd rushed in earlier stood back now, uneasy, unsure where authority fit in a moment like this. One of them cleared his throat. "There's a review coming," he said. "You know that." Grant didn't look at him. "I know." "They're not going to like this," the officer added, gesturing to Hannah. "I don't care," Grant said. The words came easier than he expected. "For once, I don't care." Lisa wiped her face with the back of her hand. "My daughter isn't an experiment," she said firmly. "No," Grant said, turning to her. "She's not." He faced Hannah then, really faced her. "You shouldn't have been brought back here," he said. "I was wrong about that." Hannah tilted her head. "But you're glad I was." Grant let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "Yes?" Rex shifted, rising just enough to adjust his position. The movement made everyone tense for a heartbeat, then relax when he settled again. His eyes followed the strap as Grant lowered it carefully to the floor, closer to the gate. Hannah leaned forward slightly. "Can I ask you something?" she said to Rex. Grant glanced at her. "Hannah, it's okay," she said. "I won't cross the line." Rex watched her, unblinking. "Were you waiting for him?" Hannah asked softly. "Or for someone to understand why you couldn't let go?" Rex's tail moved once, slow, deliberate. Grant's chest tightened. "Both," he said. A door opened somewhere behind them, footsteps approaching. A woman in a gray coat entered the hall, her expression sharp and assessing. Dr. Elaine Porter, behavioral specialist. Grant recognized her immediately. "What's going on?" she asked. Her gaze took in the scene. The strap. Hannah. Rex lying unnaturally calm. "Why is there a civilian in a restricted area?" Grant stood. "Because she stopped him from breaking." Dr. Porter raised an eyebrow. "That's not how trauma works." Hannah met her eyes. "Neither is pretending it doesn't exist." Dr. Porter looked at her, surprised, then back to Rex. "He's still a risk," she said. "One moment doesn't erase a pattern." "No," Grant agreed. "But it explains it." Dr. Porter crossed her arms. "There's a meeting tomorrow," she said. "Decisions will be made." Rex's ears flattened slightly at the change in tone. Hannah felt it. She leaned forward, speaking before fear could catch up. "If he doesn't get a chance," she said, "he'll stay here forever, waiting for a mistake that already happened." The hallway went quiet again. Grant looked at Rex, then at Hannah. "We're not done," he said. "Not yet." Rex lifted his head and met Grant's eyes, steady and calm. For the first time in years, he wasn't guarding a memory alone. And for the first time since the red door opened, Hannah felt certain of one thing. This wasn't the end of the story. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and disinfectant, the kind of room where decisions were made quickly and lived with slowly. Grant stood at the far end of the table, arms crossed, while Hannah sat beside her mother near the door. Rex was not there. That absence weighed more than his presence ever had. Dr. Elaine Porter laid a thin folder on the table and opened it with practiced calm. "Rex's behavioral history is clear," she said. "Aggression markers, fixation responses, repeated. Stress reactions. Yesterday does not erase years of data." A man in a dark jacket nodded. "We can't gamble with a working facility or a child." Hannah felt Lisa's hand tighten on hers. She kept her eyes on the table, listening. Grant spoke before he meant to. "You're not looking at the whole picture." Dr. Porter met his gaze. "I am looking at the evidence." "You're looking at symptoms," Grant said, "not the cause." A murmur moved around the table. Someone shifted uncomfortably. "Officer Grant," the director said evenly, "your history with this dog is noted. That's part of the concern." Grant swallowed. "That history is exactly why I'm here." Dr. Porter tapped the folder. "PTSD in working dogs doesn't resolve with sentiment. It requires distance from triggers, stress reduction, in some cases, retirement under controlled conditions." "Retirement where?" Grant asked. No one answered. Hannah lifted her head then. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "Can I say something?" The director hesitated, then nodded once. Briefly, Hannah took a breath. "You keep talking about risk, about safety. I understand that, but you're deciding his whole life based on the worst day he ever had." Dr. Porter's expression softened slightly. "That's not—" "They did that to me too," Hannah continued. "After my accident, people decided what I couldn't do anymore. They meant well, but they stopped seeing me." The room went still. "I'm not saying let him go back like nothing happened," Hannah said. "I'm saying don't erase him." Grant felt something twist in his chest. The director leaned back. "This isn't a shelter story," he said. "This is a law enforcement decision." Before Grant could respond, a phone on the table buzzed sharply. Everyone jumped. The director glanced at the screen and frowned. He answered. "This is Hale." His face changed as he listened. The color drained slowly, deliberately. "When?" he asked. "Where exactly?" Grant felt his pulse spike. Hale covered the receiver. "We have a situation," he said. 8-year-old boy, nonverbal, wandered from a rest stop near the foothills. Parents lost sight of him 20 minutes ago. The room erupted at once. "Search and rescue is en route," Hale continued, "but terrain's rough. Woods, creek lines." Dr. Porter stood. "We'll deploy standard units." Grant's heart pounded. "Standard units won't hold scent that long in that terrain," he said. "You know that." Hale looked at him sharply. "We're not discussing this." Grant took a step forward. "You have one dog here who can." Dr. Porter's jaw tightened. "Absolutely not." "Rex is the best tracker we've ever had," Grant said. "You all said that yourselves, and you just watched him regulate when he was given the right conditions." "That was controlled," Dr. Porter snapped. "This would not be." Hannah felt the room slipping away from her like the ground had tilted. She pictured a small boy alone in the woods, scared, quiet, waiting. She spoke without thinking. "He won't do it for you," she said. "He'll do it because it matters." Every head turned. Grant looked at her. "Hannah?" "She's right," Grant said suddenly, finding his voice again. "Rex doesn't fail on scent. He fails when he's forced to stop." Silence fell again, thicker this time. Hale rubbed his temple. "If this goes wrong—" "I'll take responsibility," Grant said immediately. "Full responsibility." Dr. Porter stared at him. "You're willing to end your career on this?" Grant didn't hesitate. "Yes." Hannah felt her breath catch. Hale looked from Grant to Dr. Porter, then to the door. Somewhere beyond it, Rex waited. "Prepare the dog," Hale said finally. "One attempt, controlled perimeter, and the girl stays back." Hannah nodded before anyone could argue. "I will." Grant exhaled, shaky and relieved and terrified all at once. As the room broke into motion, Hannah sat very still. She knew something had just changed, not just for Rex, for all of them. Because now the unthinkable wasn't what Rex might do. It was what would happen if they didn't let him try. The mountains swallowed sound the way the hallway had earlier that day. Pine needles muted footsteps. The air smelled like cold water and sap. Searchlights cut pale tunnels through the trees as teams spread out along the edge of the foothills. Hannah waited near the command truck, wrapped in a blanket, her chair parked on uneven ground. She had agreed to stay back. She kept that promise. but she didn't look away. Rex stood at the perimeter with Grant, the leash slack in Grant's hand. For a moment, neither of them moved. The forest pressed in, dark and unfamiliar, but Rex's posture was different now. Alert, not frantic. Focused. Grant crouched and held out the strap. "We do this together," he said quietly. "No stopping this time." Rex lowered his head and breathed it in. Then he moved. The leash slid through Grant's fingers as Rex took the lead, nose low, body sure. He didn't hesitate at the creek bank. He didn't falter when the trail crossed rock and mud and broken brush. He pulled forward, steady and certain, like something inside him had finally been allowed to finish what it started years ago. Time stretched. Radios crackled. Someone called out coordinates. The night deepened. Hannah watched the lights move farther away, her heart pounding with every second that passed. She pressed her father's tag into her palm until it left a mark. Then the radio burst alive. "We've got movement," a voice said, breathless. K9 indicating strong scent near the ravine. Grant's voice followed, calm but tight. "Stay with me, Rex." Minutes later, a shout cut through the trees. Then another. They found the boy curled, beneath a fallen log, cold, muddy, alive. Rex reached him first, standing guard, barking once to signal. When Grant arrived, Rex didn't rush ahead. He stayed put, eyes fixed, until the child was safely in arms. Applause broke out near the truck. Relief. Tears. Hands clapped shoulders. Someone laughed in disbelief. Hannah didn't move. She waited. When Rex finally emerged from the trees, mud streaked along his legs, his chest heaving, he didn't head toward the crowd. He turned instead, walking past lights and voices, straight toward Hannah. Grant slowed, surprised. "Rex?" Rex kept coming. Hannah felt her breath catch as he stopped in front of her chair. He didn't bark. He didn't paw. He simply lowered his head and placed the strap gently at her feet. The world seemed to go quiet again. Grant's throat tightened. "He's never done that," he whispered. Hannah looked down at the strap, then back at Rex. She reached out, stopping herself inches from his fur, remembering the line, the rules, the long road that had brought them here. "Thank you," she said instead. Rex leaned forward and rested his head against the wheel of her chair, just enough to feel him there. Not a command, not a task, a choice. Weeks later, the red door stayed closed, but not locked. Rex's name went back on the board. Grant's reassignment became permanent, this time by his own request. Hannah visited every Saturday, reading aloud from whatever book she was in the middle of. Sometimes Rex listened, sometimes he slept. They didn't save each other. They just refused to let one another disappear. Before you go, take a second and tell us how this story made you feel. If you believe the dog deserved a second chance, comment 1. If you believe the girl saved him just by understanding his pain, comment 0. We read every comment. They matter more than you think. And if stories like this remind you that kindness still exists, subscribe to the channel. More true, emotional stories are coming. Stories about loyalty, loss, and the moments that change a life forever. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.